know what they say. If they can't find you handsome, at least they'll find you handy. Now these gloves are the best budget gauntlet style glove that you could ever ask for, by far. My name is Jeff, you are watching TrashWerks, and today we are going to be doing a review of these lovely RST TracTech Evo 4CE gauntlet style gloves. That was a mouthful. Now these gloves are the best budget gauntlet style glove that you could ever ask for, by far. They're not the cheapest gauntlet style glove, they are the best value gauntlet style glove. And these are actually my daily riding gloves. It's what I wear when I ride all the time. Whether I'm on my Kawasaki Z900 or my Triumph Bonneville Bobber Cruiser, you'll still find me wearing these gloves. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. I'll go over that and talk about some of the quirks and features of these gloves. But before we do that, I will flip it over to a special guest to give us a walk around of these gloves to understand their construction and a little bit more about what makes them so valuable.
Jeff N here, sportbiketrashworks.com, and today we have got a pair of these RST TracTech Evo 4CE gloves, a gauntlet style glove. As alluded to by On Bike Jeff, these are by far the best value gauntlet gloves that you can find. Now, what makes this glove so valuable? Well, it's gonna be right here. We could see Kangaroo. This has a Kangaroo leather palm. It is under $200, under $150 actually, and you get Kangaroo leather on the palm. Now, if you've never had a glove with Kangaroo leather is very durable, but beyond that, it's got a very soft and tactile feel, meaning that when you've got your hands on the bars, whether it's on the controls, whether it's on the grips, you feel a whole lot more than you would with a traditional either cow leather or goat leather. Kangaroo is by far what I would consider to be the best leather for the palm of a glove. And it's something that, quite frankly, I don't think I'd have the ability to go back to cow or goat, given how much time I've spent in Kangaroo leather gloves. And on the note of the construction of this palm, while you do get Kangaroo leather throughout the palm, down the fingertips, you can also see that there is some additional reinforcements, most particularly here on the butt of the palm, where you would likely be contacting the ground if you fell, because despite all of our best efforts, when we fall, if we're not trained, we're gonna put our hands out to try and catch ourselves. And so this has reinforcement at the butt of the palm. We have got Kevlar stitching and Kevlar lining on this extra palm slider on the soft part, and then we also have a hard palm slider there. Now, what's the benefit of having that hard plastic on the palm slider? Well, it's going to help it do what it is called. It slides. It helps it to graze off, so that when you hit the ground, instead of falling and catching and having all that force transmitted from your palm up your arm and causing all kinds of injuries with your wrist, with your arm, your shoulder, it lets you slide off so that you can hit the ground with bigger parts of your body and spread that force out instead of putting it all right here. Now, for those of you who don't believe me that hitting your palm is going to be the first place that touches when you fall off your bike and you put your hands out, let me show you another pair. This is an Alpinestars GP Pro R3. This was the glove that I was wearing before I got my RSTs. This is what I've worn on the track multiple times, more times than I can even remember. And this glove has been abused. I have crashed quite a few times in these gloves, and you can see right here, if we look at the palm, on this plastic bit, you can see it's been scratched up. It's been ground down because when you crash, you put your hands out to brace yourself. That's just a natural thing that we do. We put our hands down when we're falling to catch ourselves. And so having that plastic slider right there is going to help save your wrist, your arm from excess injury by sliding that impact and making it so that you're not hitting the ground and putting all that force directly into your wrist, but instead sliding it so that the rest of your body can land and spread that force out. Now these, I've crashed in these a lot. If you were to sell these online, you would list it as never dropped, runs great. That's how much I've crashed in these gloves. And I can say for a fact that these palm sliders have done their job. I've never had any kind of wrist pain or arm injury or anything like that from crashing and sliding in gloves with a hard palm slider. But again, keep in mind, these gloves, these Alpinestars GP Pro R3s, are almost double the cost of our RST TracTech Evos. And we have basically the same amount of functionality feature for feature. We have the Kangaroo Leather palm, we have the reinforced palm slider, this time with not only the hard plastic and the second layer of leather, but you also have Kevlar lining there and Kevlar stitching, so that helps keep it on there. We can see on the side of the pinky, another place that you're common to fall or slide, has extra leather on there. It's got a second layer, and you've even got a hard knuckle there, again, to help transmit and slide that force instead of grounding it down into the finger or glove itself. If we look on the top side here, we can see we've got some relief stitching so that you can move your joints around. And as I'll probably say on the rest of the ride portion of this video, this glove is very comfortable to wear for long periods of time. But on here, you can see there is extra layers of leather. You do have hard-ish knuckles. This is sort of like a rubber material, so it really helps spread that impact, whereas down here, this is a harder plastic. And then the knuckles, you can see here, are a plastic. I don't know if this is actual carbon fiber, just sort of like a carbon fiber wrap. Either way, you've got a harder knuckle on there. One nice thing too is if we look here at the glove, you can see it's got a floating knuckle. So the top of the hand and the knuckle itself are separate from each other. They are not, one stitch from here to here. That gives a lot more mobility when it comes to bending your hand down and your knuckle down. This also does help get a lot of hot air exhausted out of the top of the palm. You can see there is perforation in the leather here. We've got this glove is very soft. We've got a soft material on the inside so that even when you are filling out the glove or the glove is coming back, it still feels soft. There are some points in time where I am wearing the glove and my hand is naturally in this position with my wrist sort of up like that. Think of like when you're doing hard braking or something like that and your hand is more upright. That may be a user error, and I do sometimes feel this dig into the top of my wrist, but for the most part, it's not something that I really notice and not something that causes any real issues. It is just something to note. But if we look on the inside of the glove here, we can see this sort of yellow area here. This is actually Kevlar lining, so the inside of the glove is lined with Kevlar. One nice thing that I really like about that is it's hard to really show on camera, but this material is really soft. It's smooth. And what I really like about that, and what I'll probably say in the ride portion of the video, is that really helps slide material through. So let's say if I'm wearing my jacket and I've got leather all the way down to my wrist, I can slide this gauntlet over my arm really easily. And while I do have it on, instead of it being, leather on leather contact, I instead have this soft Kevlar lining on the leather part of my sleeve. So it really moves a lot. It doesn't bind up at all. That's one of my favorite parts. But probably my most favorite part about these gloves is the actual cuff itself. So as you can see, we've got double Velcro, one flap on each side. We've got a wrist strap as well. Opening this up is a huge opening. I can slip my arm in there easily. If I've got leathers on and they're all the way down to my wrist, look at all this extra room that I am getting from here. All this extra fitment that I can get from the cuff of this glove. And I can tighten it down as much as I need to with the double straps here, so that it is as tight as you need. You do also have the extra wrist strap is here so that you can adjust it as well. This glove is the easiest glove to get on and off, whether I've been sweating all day or I'm wearing a ton of extra leather on my wrist or down to my cuff. Super easy to get these gloves on and off, and by far my favorite feature about them is how comfortable they are and how easy they are to get on and off. I've never had a situation where I've had a hard time getting this glove on. Whereas with the Alpinestars GP Pro R3s, they were rough. I had the hardest time squeezing into there as opposed to the RSTs where I could just fall right in. With that, I will go ahead, I'll switch it back over to On Ride Jeff, and you will get to learn more about how these gloves handle on an actual bike.
Thanks for that, Jeff. Now to talk a little bit more about what I love about these gloves. They are by far the comfiest gauntlet style gloves I've ever worn. The inside palm, as you saw from Jeff Van there, is Kangaroo Leather, which if you've never experienced Kangaroo Leather, go down to your local gear shop, find their nicest set of gloves that they offer, see if it has Kangaroo Leather on, and go touch it. It is super soft. You get a lot more dexterity with that Kangaroo Leather, but aside from that, it also has that Kevlar lining, which is actually pretty smooth. So when it goes over like my leather sleeves here on my jackets or my suits, it actually slips over really well. It doesn't really catch, and so it feels less restrictive than putting a standard glove on with those, even short gloves, because they have that leather lining at the cuff, and that usually gets caught on my jackets. This, super smooth, super soft, and very tactile. These gloves also happen to fit my hand super well. It's like the one glove where all my finger lengths are exactly the right length. Once you found that right glove that fits perfectly, it makes it that much more apparent. And these gloves are definitely that for me. Aside from that, these gloves are also actually pretty cool. In terms of temperature, obviously they are cool because I'm wearing them, but in terms of temperature, out in the sun, out in the heat, they actually do dissipate temperature pretty well. There's all kinds of perforations all over the glove itself to let some of that heat out, and you can see it's got that floating knuckle as well, so all that extra padding that would be on the knuckle is able to float up and allow for more hot air to get out of the glove. That being said, they are still hotter than a short glove would be, or a mesh glove, but by all means, in terms of other gauntlet style gloves that I've worn, these are pretty cool. So much so that I don't even really bother with the short gloves that I have. The only time I really feel any kind of heat, any kind of temperature soaking is really just when I'm sitting at a light in the sun, and it's a particularly hot or sunny day out, which I'm in Florida, so the sun does not play around here. And so aside from that, once you get going, it really does let a lot of that heat out. It ventilates really well. One of the best things about these gloves and why I use them for my daily gloves is that I can slip these over anything. Because it has that double strap there, it lets you open the cuff up super wide, so you're not catching on your sleeve or anything like that trying to slip it on. You can easily just slip it over your sleeve, slide it over because it's got that Kevlar lining, and then just tuck it all the way in. And even still, the wrist itself is not that tight either. You can just tighten it down with the strap instead of trying to squeeze through it. That was probably one of my biggest complaints about the Alpinestars GP Pro R3s, and I hated putting those things on. When I first got them and before they really broke in, just squeezing my hand through the actual wrist part was nigh impossible. It was the roughest experience that I could have asked for. Those gloves still feel a little tight. Even though they're mediums, these are also mediums, but these just slip on so nicely. They let you tighten it down with the straps instead of just, trying to give birth to your wrist to get them on. Another thing that I like about these gloves is that palm slider area. Not only does it have the hard plastic on there, but you can see it's got that reinforced Kevlar, and that provides some extra cushion right on that area of the palm itself, which of course is good for, you know, if you crash and you have to put your hands out and fall and catch yourself. But for riding along, it really gives you a nice resting place to put your palm so that it's nice and comfortable and neutral while you're riding, especially for longer stints where you're just sort of sitting and going straight. It gives you a nice place to just sort of rest your hand with a little extra cushion, as opposed to just the bare kangaroo leather itself. So that's another comfort thing for this glove that I really like. However, the main thing that I do not like about these gloves is the inside stitching on the fingers. They're like positioned perfectly right where my fingernails are, so they catch all the time. They sort of get stuck in there, and it's just, if anything, it's annoying. It doesn't really cause any problems, but it's just something where it just gets stuck there and it's just an irritating thing. And that's just something that I've noticed on these gloves, just really any seams, honestly. They sort of stick out quite a bit. That's not necessarily a bad thing. As far as I'm concerned, that's extra material right there. So I'm not really complaining about it too much, but just from a construction and finish quality, it seems a little less premium than some of those more expensive gloves. But in terms of function, they work great. I'm very tactile with it. I can feel everything that's going on with my controls and with just anything that I need to do with my hand with my glove on. I'm not going to be solving any puzzles with it, but I have tons of feeling as opposed to some sort of cheaper glove. So it may not look pretty, but it works. And you know what they say, if they can't find you handsome, at least they'll find you handy. But I mean, that's really the only cons that I can think of when it comes to this glove, especially for the price. Just the seams, the finger comfort, and the sort of end construction itself. Again, it's not necessarily that it's not constructed well, it's just not very pretty, which, who cares? It still works. And remember, if you found the video educational or at the bare minimum entertaining, please be sure to give it a like, subscribe to my channel, or if you'd like to catch me on my other platforms, I am on Instagram at trash.works. I am also on TikTok at TrashWerks. Whichever you decide to do, the only thing I wish for is to escape corporate hell. With that, I will catch you in the next one.